out to another episode of It's All Been Trucked Before. This time, BEM. Yeah, not B-E-M, BEM. Still probably counts for Bug-Eyed Monsters, but you saw them. You saw what they look like. BEM, It's All Been Trucked Before. I don't even have a good segue, but Loves, Lust, Lost. Yeah, you're listening to a Trek podcast. This is kind of, some familiarity. Loves, Lust, Lost. You've heard of Universe Journey, part of the It's All Been Done Radio Hour. Captain Richard Dick Kake is the captain of the ASS Thrifty. He seems confident, but is he really? Loves, Lust, Lost, a spin-off novel. Yeah, reading of It's All Been Done radio program, Universe Journey. Yeah, I just said that. Show us Kake's early days, rising through the ranks, and flirting with the only woman he ever truly loved, Grace Thomas. Get that background. Go back. It's like going back before the 5-year mission with Kirk and the guys that we've talked about so much. Check it out. The Loves, Lost, Lost novel. You can get that. IABDpresents.com. Also, speaking of websites, patreon.com/IABD. That's how we get you this content. We got novels. We got series. We got podcasts. That's the bread and butter, baby. Patreon.com/IABD. Go there, donate. You get that extra bonus content. Speaking of bonus content, Nikki tells you how to live your life. Yeah, it's back. Nikki has completed her second season. So you have 2 full batch episodes in which she advises you how to live your life as she works on the 3rd. Yeah, there's more coming. Nikki tells you how to live your life. Go check that out. All part of the IABD Presents Network, IABDpresents.com. And right now, it's BEM. BEM on It's All Been Trekked Before.
Welcome back to another episode of It's All Been Trekked Before. Your skeleton crew is here.
This is Steven.
And Jimmy-Jerome. It's like Kirk and Spock without their McCoy.
It's...
Just like this episode.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. We'll talk about that in a second. There was one point in particular I really felt his absence.
Wow.
But, I would think Keith's more of our Spock rather than McCoy. I'm more of the McCoy, but that's okay. You're obviously the Kirk.
Well.
I think that's clear. My first impression, I want to mention that as soon as I saw David Gerrold's name come up as the writer, my first thought was, well, it can't be worse than this last episode. And as we get to the end of this episode, and the godlike being's like, learn from your mistakes, I'm like, yep, David Gerrold. Because while this wasn't a great episode, I did think it was better than his last one.
Was the last one more Tribbles?
Yes.
Yeah. I did too. And I started off not thinking I was going to like this at all. But as it went through, I'm like, okay, this feels like a David Gerrold where maybe he got to do... not a little more, but maybe had a little more control over it. Or at least he fought through whatever Roddenberry tried to give him.
Roddenberry made him add the godlike entity. That was not his thing.
Oh, that's right.
And he fought it because he was like, you've done that enough. We don't need it again.
Yep, and I will say, and it's one of my notes, is I thought this godlike entity was more interesting than a lot of the other ones in that it was kind of like, hey, I understand who you are, or that kind of stuff. It wasn't...
Tell me the truth. Do you really like it more because it was Nichelle Nichols?
Yes, that's another one of my notes.
Nichelle Nichols made a great god. Immediately I believed it so much more than most godlike beings. Most of the godlike beings, like when you talk about the Trailing episode, Squire Gothos or whatever, they sound like, they're just arrogant fools. Mm-hmm. Whereas this one actually seemed like a wise being. My
note was, on whatever planets or including ours,
sure,
if there is a good higher being, it sounds like Nichelle Nichols.
Absolutely.
I really loved her voice. She found that right pitch of not condescending, not cooing, not syrupy sweet. She nailed it. It was great.
And yet, it really was still Uhura.
It was.
She didn't do a weird voice. Right. Which, in this case, should not count against her. Because
I agree.
Especially in the episode where we've got Jimmy Doohan doing one of his worst voices of the series in BEM.
I will say...
I appreciate
her. The BEM voice grew on me by the end of the episode, but it started off... I was right with you. You and I looked at each other like, oh my God, what is this?
I liked his speech patterns. The Kirk Captain and stuff.
Well, I know. Well, but that surprises me.
Really? I write characters like that in Universe Journey.
Well, I wrote down it was Yoda talk.
Yeah.
There was a little bit, but it wasn't consistent Yoda talk. But still, Star Wars ripped it off.
Well, I think aliens shouldn't all talk standard English.
I agree. Oh, absolutely.
So, while it was a little annoying, I liked that and appreciated that. I just didn't like Doohan's voice for it. Even by the end.
It wasn't great, but it grew on me. I didn't hate it as much as I did.
Oh, no, I thought it was one of his worst.
I have more notes on that, too.
Go for it.
There's a couple spots where Scotty and BEM were talking, especially when he calls him Mr. Scotty.
I wrote down Mr. Scotty. I love that. Nobody calls him Mr. Scotty.
Yeah, and I thought...
Is that the only person that's ever called him Mr. Scotty?
I feel like it is.
I think so.
And I thought that... I was like, Doohan versus Doohan, but it's nowhere near the levels of, say, The Mouse That Roared with Peter Sellers talking to himself, or even The Nutty Professor with Eddie Murphy, or, and I know I'm leaving out plenty of examples, or any of the Austin Powers movies where, or for that matter, So I Married an Axe Murderer with Mike Myers talking to Mike Myers, I should say. It will not, in fact, it might be on the bottom of people talking to themselves as characters,
I mean, we've noticed an ongoing issue with this series where the characters don't sound like they're actually talking to one another. It's very clear they recorded separately.
Yeah, it is. And maybe that adds to the, because I had that note too, which is, and this is more related to the music, and I think we talked about this last week as well, but maybe that's part of that, and I know we've talked with Keith about it too, part of why they're so low key, which I kind of appreciate in some ways, but it continues whenever there's action.
Yeah.
And then the music is so over the top.
Yeah.
And like...
worse than it ever was in the original series.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I think we've talked about that too, and that it's... and again, maybe this is for Saturday morning kids cartoons. It's wall-to-wall music. This sometimes makes sense and most of the time doesn't.
Did you notice the avoiding of the fight scene the way they keeps doing for Saturday morning cartoons? Like when they were trying to break out and the aliens were coming at them, and then all of a sudden Kirk and Spock are just in cages, and we don't actually see them fight.
You're right.
And I think that's a hallmark of this animated series. We keep missing the fight scenes that we would have had in the original.
Well, and I know we've talked about this too, and I know I'm belaboring it, but we don't have many episodes left.
Thank God. Four left.
It amazes me how cheap the animation is, and I know a lot of it was, and I know we've talked about what a dumping ground Saturday morning cartoons were. It was like, we just want to sell cereal and toys, and we don't care. Which I still think, in a way, I'm praising Star Trek because I feel like these do stand out because they are trying to do something. And as as TV evolved and the decades evolved, I think they started to get there. Although right now I think it's back to being a wasteland on Saturday mornings. But we also have 1,000 channels, so you don't have to watch the major networks. But yeah, because and I think this happened in other episodes, and I really focused on this. The planet, the green planet, it was really just, it wasn't really a round orb. It was just like they cut a hole in the animation.
Yes.
With running...
I wrote this down, too.
Yeah.
It wasn't rotating. It was something moving
just
past
running
the hole.
through it, yeah.
Yes.
It was terrible. It's just like, how...
it doesn't look like a planet at all.
And I wonder if, like... this was on NBC, right? Isn't that what you said? Yeah.
Probably. The original was.
I wonder how much it was Filmation cutting costs so they could get more profits, or NBC being like, here's how much money we're going to pay you, and Filmation be like, okay, we can do that, and then it's probably a little both, but it's just like, and then
the stupid mistakes, like Scotty's hair changed color in a scene, and...
right. Well, yeah, and we talked about this, and maybe that leads back to the, again, I thought about all the actors, like, I got to take this gig because they're all working actors, and they I mean,
at that point they were all getting typecast in those roles.
That too, and so it's like, well, but I still need to work because nobody else has offered me anything, and I obviously those guys all survived and do okay in the movies, and it came around and all.
Yeah, but I mean that's been an ongoing issue for Star Trek actors. Is a lot of them get pigeonholed and typecast.
Yeah,
and some of them, like a Patrick Stewart or William Shatner, will eventually break out and have careers outside of Star Trek, but a lot of them don't, and that's one reason I think it's really great that in the Next Gen DS9 Voyager Enterprise era they had the directing program where a lot of them learned to direct on the show, and now a lot of them are working directors, even though they're not on screen a lot,
right?
So that helps them find other opportunities that they don't have to be like, hey, you're that alien, or they just guest star on the Orville.
Well, that's true too.
Because half of Star Trek's cast is now guested. I mean, we just had Tim Russ, Tuvok, in the most recent episode.
Yeah.
And he's like the, 6th, 7th one this season?
Yeah, and I know Seth MacFarlane loves all Star Trek, so he's able to get those people. Plus, there are a lot of celebrities that like him and work with him too, which is, the guest stars have been phenomenal.
Got a love of Star Trek, and I'm sure the Star Trek actors knew that before the Orville came out. Because of who he is and how he operates.
And they've done his show, they've done Family Guy, among others. And
and that's one of the many reasons why we're going to include the Orville in this podcast when we get to it.
Yeah, I mean, when you can have Charlize Theron guest star on, and not only does she guest star, and she's a great actress, but play a really cool part, a great part, and so...
Well, Victor Garber, Ted Danson.
Yep. Yeah, Danson pops in.
If we're going off of Star Trek cast, the guests they get on that show are just amazing. Can't wait for Neil Patrick Harris's part, whatever that is.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's... We're getting way ahead of ourselves.
Yes, we'll get to that in a while. It struck me as I was watching this how few lines Uhura had again, and I wondered if, as we did in our last week's episode, how you had somebody read all of her lines from Wrath of Khan in like 2 minutes. I wondered if you could read all her lines from the entire animated series in like 2 minutes.
Oh, yeah, it would not.
Not counting other characters, just Uhura.
Right.
And yet, there was one great thing about Uhura, not Nichelle, Uhura in this episode. Uh-huh. We got to see her in charge of the ship.
That's what I was going to say.
And I think that's the first time. And Maress was on it in her station, so they were both on the bridge. And she wasn't in the chair. I think she should have been in the chair.
Yeah.
But the fact that we got to see her in charge,
I did enjoy that and appreciate that.
Very much.
And because she was the one that was like, well, we have to follow orders.
It brings me back to McCoy there for a second. Because, and this is not the moment where I met his glaring absence. But, Scotty's usually in charge when the rest of them beam down because he and McCoy, I think McCoy's fourth in line. I think Scotty's third in the rankings. Obviously, Spock's second in command.
Sure.
So really it should have been McCoy in charge, but the Doctor's not going to take command of the ship.
Right.
Where I felt his absence was when they beamed down and Kirk and Spock fell in the water. We needed a sarcastic McCoy up on the hill making a remark, and it set me looking for the image of them beaming down to be like, wait, wasn't he there? Because he's always there.
Yeah.
He should have made some comments.
Has there ever been a time... Well, I think to this point, that hasn't happened, right?
What?
Where
the transport thing?
Yeah.
No, that was because Ben messed with the controls.
Oh, that's right.
But I still think McCoy should have gloated. And it felt really weird not to have him there gloating.
It was funny, though, too. We both laughed.
Oh, no, it was a great moment. And, of course, he did it just to allow his slick pickpocketing.
Yes. I feel like Spock should have sensed the pickpocket happening.
I felt like they would have felt it. It didn't feel like it. I didn't look like it was very slick.
Yeah, I get that, they didn't expect him to split, which is another issue, but I feel like that's something you should notice. Kirk should, again, actually both of them should notice. Spock with his Vulcan senses, but Kirk with his senses of somebody's touching my body.
Yes.
Somebody's moving. Somebody's up under my shirt. Kirk would notice that.
Kirk would be into that.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why he didn't say anything, because he noticed, but he was just going to let it happen. But you had an issue with the fact that they didn't know he split?
Yeah, it's this thing I've talked about a lot with Spock, and I think I talked about it last week. Know your aliens. Get to know your...
Well, I felt like he was a species they were just getting to know.
I guess that's true.
And they were trying to decide if they were
Pandronians.
The Federation. Yes. Because they talked about how the Pandronians were evaluating them. And Bem was set as an honorary commander to observe and decide, which I kind of like the fact that there was mention that, hey, he's been here for the last 6 missions.
I thought that was funny.
He's just in his quarters.
I thought that was funny, actually.
I thought that was really good because, yes, there are lots of other people on the ship that we don't see. And I think it would have been really great if he, line dropped a reference to a recent episode.
That would have been even better.
But, of course, they don't do continuity.
And I'm sure he got to know the whole ship because if you're on the ship,
sure,
you have access
to everything. He was probably walking into Kirk's quarters and feeling him up, which is why Kirk didn't react.
You're probably right.
Alternate episode, at the end of this, Kirk takes Ben back to his quarters, split again. It's a lot of hands.
While we're there, my alternate episode was, and this doesn't actually count, but I kept thinking that the godlike being was a cloud being, just because when they had those guys in stasis. Yeah. There was all the colors.
The floating lights.
So I guess it's more of a higher being kind of thing.
We've seen that effect again, too.
Yeah, I feel like my own episode is a couple of the higher beings get together. Because the Nichelle Nichols one in this episode was so great.
Sure.
She would probably have her pick of all the loser higher beings we've met in the animated series and the original series. So
absolutely.
That would be my alternate.
You actually write down your alternate episode. I see it in your notes.
I do.
Do you usually do?
I started just so I don't forget.
I never think of an alternate episode when we're watching. I think of it while we're talking.
I've had to do a lot of them. I've had to do a lot of them spur of the moment. That's why I write it down, and sometimes
I don't think there's ever been one I haven't talked about that I hadn't thought of 5 seconds before.
Well, that's perfect. In the moment.
While we're talking about Bem a little bit, I think this is the only opportunity really for fashion.
Fashion.
Did you like Honorary Commander Bem's uniform?
It's okay.
I thought it looked like something Mudd would wear.
Yeah.
I didn't really care for it.
This will be my last Star Wars reference. It looks also like they
Akbar?
probably Bosk.
Oh, Bosk.
The bounty hunter from Empire Strikes Back. It looked very much like that. And
I guess I was just thinking Akbar because it was white.
And so, what are their bodies though?
Different pieces. Well, we saw hands come out of the waist, so I assume there's a head down in there too. Man, you don't want to be that head.
So it's like a two-man horse.
Or three.
Costume,
I think it's a three-man horse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. There was almost a part I thought was a mistake, and then I realized it wasn't, where they locked the aliens that looked kind of like Gorn, or overgrown crocodiles.
We've had a lot of lizards on the animated series.
Well, of course, they're fun to draw.
Yeah.
But Zoe's being very loud.
She is into this.
She was into Bem, apparently.
She would have loved Bem.
She missed the episode, but she's got opinions. No, I thought it was weird they didn't search his pockets, because normally we lock somebody up. That's like locking up one-on-one.
Right.
And then I looked at the alligator things, and their tunics and waistcloths, loincloths, and none of them have pockets. So they probably didn't think to check his pockets, because they don't know what pockets are. They're not used to pockets.
Well, and as the godlike creature says, they're children, so maybe that's not part of their...
Deception isn't part of their thing.
What their thing is, yeah.
No, I think we didn't see a lot of them, but they were very clearly a distinct alien species.
Yeah.
And had some interesting... And maybe the pocket thing was just an oversight, but I like to think it was intelligent. David Gerrold, really thinking about the
That's
script.
what I'm giving Gerald some credit here for the episode going the direction where it was. I loved all the talk about not going to violence at first. I mean, I was annoyed again that some species was testing the Federation. I know they want to join the Federation.
Yeah.
It's like you don't have to do one of these stupid tests.
Yeah.
And then I thought the godlike creature was going to do it, but she didn't, which I thought was cool for a change, because we've had so many of these tests and those godlike. I'm quoting godlike every time.
Sure.
End up being a-holes or just idiots. Not really higher beings. They have all these powers, but they're not really smarter. They just have powers. Charlie X, for instance, who was a child, again, to bring it full circle.
I hate Charlie X. The episode and the person. I thought it was weird at the end Kirk didn't tell them how many people to beam up. Like he always says, 3 to beam up or whatever.
Well, early in the episode, I think it's a her, or maybe it's Kirk was like, we'll activate this, so you're tracking us on the planet. And we've talked about this before,
sure.
This should happen every time.
Yeah.
It should always be standard.
And then they lost him anyway.
Yeah, because they switched the communicators and all that.
Yeah, but they were still right there with Bem.
I know. It seems like you could still pick up the life forms.
What bothered me was when they're like, Eric's, did you find him? Oh, it's a big planet. Yeah, it's a big planet, but they can't walk the whole planet. You're only searching this tiny area where they were.
Right.
You can't get that far.
Right. They're not in a shuttlecraft.
No. I mean, it's possible that something transported them in some way further that you could walk.
Yeah.
But wouldn't you at least start within the radius where they could walk?
Yep.
And that shouldn't take that long to search.
No. Yeah, the abilities of the Enterprise to scan for life and...
The technology in this episode was awful.
Oh.
Besides that, we had... Spock was like, let me link the communicators. Kirk tossed the communicator. He immediately tosses them back. It took him 2 seconds. So why can't Kirk just do it himself if it was that quick? We had phaser blasts taking multiple blasts to break out of a wood and string cage. It just didn't make sense.
Well, and Kirk asked Spock about, couldn't you use your nerve pinch on the bamboo?
I think he meant on the aliens, but they weren't close to the aliens.
Right.
So it didn't make sense.
And I do agree from the sense of, I mean, I feel like we've always been told Spock has greater strength than everyone else.
Sure.
I feel like he could bust those.
Oh, easily.
He could break those in two.
Easily.
So
or just untie the door.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's all you really had to do.
I mean, nobody was guarding them.
No.
And there was no official lock. It was just tied shut.
Yeah. Well, because they kept saying, well, Bem, you can get out of here whenever you want.
So could they.
I was testing you. I'm not doing it right. That's Eric's, but...
Same thing.
Testing you, I was. Yeah, it was...
There were... My last notes, though, I've got 3 more, are all things I liked, and most, dialogue stuff. I enjoyed the fun little exchange of Kirk's like, how come we always end up like this? And Spock's like, is that rhetorical? Well, it's fate. And then I almost was like, Spock would talk about fate, and they goes, Earth term, fate.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, that's all really fun.
That was a good little banner, though. That was cool. Yeah.
I really liked every planet is dangerous to the ignorant.
That's a good line, too.
I mean, they're dangerous even to the non-ignorant, but that's beside the point.
Yeah.
And I liked punishments only necessary when learning cannot occur without it.
I thought that was great,
Love
too.
that concept.
Yeah. And I thought...
We still haven't figured that out in this century.
Nope.
But we should.
I felt like all those parts, those 3 lines you hit. I think it's 3 of the lines I really liked. And the parts that elevated this episode.
The punishment line, I would rank among my favorite concepts of the entire animated series.
Yeah, I agree.
And even put it up against some of the best of the original.
Yeah.
What a great concept.
Yeah, I think it belongs there. And I thought there were a lot of cool concepts like that in here. And not necessarily in a phenomenal episode, but I thought they were, you could tell, again, I'm giving Gerrold the credit of, I'm trying to make this a better thing than...
Sure.
I'm trying to write a good sci-fi story and also within the Star Trek universe.
And making all the changes around Mary Man.
Exactly. I only have a few more notes.
Go for it.
I thought it was interesting they kept using the term Aborigines.
Yeah.
Which actually applies to any natives or First People in any plant or any area. I just always associate it with Australia.
Yes.
This is one part with the godlike creature I didn't get. She was able to put them in stasis and freeze them and all that. But then she didn't know who they were. I'm like, they've been yapping the whole friggin' time. They're on you feel like
she was too busy to listen to.
That's possible. They're probably her children are probably on other parts of the planet.
She's trying to run a whole planet.
That's fair. And I did. Oh, that's another thing. I love that Kirk was like, "We shouldn't be here. Yeah, this is wrong. We need to get out of here, and we will never come back." And I love when he was like, "You know what? We did this wrong. We won't come back. That's the way we handle this." And the God was like, "Okay, yeah, that sounds good. See you. You're free to go." Yeah. Instead of in the original series, that would never happen.
I agree.
This is still when I considered the godlike creature a cloud. Mm-hmm. Keith missed out on a cloud.
We're gonna get to that in a second. We're gonna get to that when we get to rankings here.
And my last note was, and I think I read this right. I think this is the first use of Tiberius.
Really?
Yeah.
They never mentioned the original series?
I don't think it's in the original series. It's always James
But
T.
it's adopted in the movies.
Yeah.
They mentioned the movies.
Yeah, it became canon and...
Right.
And
but you think David Gerrold's the one that
I
came
think
up with
so. I think I read that this, or at least this is the first time. He may not have come up with it. It's the first time it's actually used in a show.
Well, he probably came up with it.
Maybe.
Or Gene. But
it's a great name.
I mean, I think David Gerrold is probably one of the better Star Trek writers. More Troubles aside.
Well, and he was, even by this time, I think maybe he was in his early 20s. Oh, I have one more note.
Yeah.
Speaking of David Gerrold. So BEM stands for Bug-Eyed Monster.
Yes.
And that's what he wanted to write it for. Which
he wasn't very bug-eyed.
No, he wasn't. Yeah, I kept thinking he'd be more bug-eyed.
He probably thought in his head he was
I
bug-eyed.
think, yeah. Which reminds me of REM, which still don't think they've ever settled on what REM stood for, but Round-Eyed Monster was one of the possibilities. Rapid eye motion
Star Trek
as well.
reference.
Very possible.
Because James R. Kirk, they were referencing that back. And then
no, they're going back to, yeah.
Now I'm getting really convoluted.
We're going deep.
They're not Ben Stiller. They're not Red Dawn Productions, which is a reference.
Mm-hmm.
You want to rank David Gerrold episodes real quick? There's only 5.
Sure, yeah.
Why not?
Should be easy.
Yeah, I think do you want to hear a rundown before?
Yeah.
We got Ben.
Sure.
We got more Tribbles. We got the Tribbles. We got the Cloudminders, and we got iMud, the one with Stella and the robots.
Oh.
I think I'm pretty confident.
I always thought that was Stephen Candell, but that was Gerrold.
I'm pretty confident that we're gonna agree on the first one.
Trouble with Troubles.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'd be pretty confident we're gonna agree on the second one.
iMud?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the correct answer. I think we'll agree on the last one, the worst one.
More Troubles?
Absolutely. I think here's where we're going to disagree.
I started getting confused that I thought Candell.
Here's where I think we're going to disagree.
I think we probably will.
Bam or the Cloudminders, which one's better?
I know I like the Cloudminders better.
Yeah.
But
and I liked Ben better.
It's a lot closer than I would have thought going in, though. I liked this episode a lot more than I thought I would.
Well, this episode had its issues, so I would agree that they're close.
Yeah.
I don't think we really need to finish ranking them. I just thought it was interesting because he did a significant number of significant episodes.
Yeah.
But we do need to rank this episode.
We do.
Let's just start in the middle where we were last week.
Sure.
Kind of high middle. Pirates of the Orion.
I rewatched that.
Yeah? Did you?
I did.
I did not.
I think I would rate this... I'd rate this above.
Me too.
Yeah.
Infinite Vulcan.
I think I'd rate this above that too.
I would as well.
Yeah.
The Territon incident.
And that's when they get small, right?
Yes. Maybe I should have started higher.
Yeah, I think we're getting in range, but I might still go higher.
I agree. Eye of the Beholder. That was
the squid elephants. No, what do we call them?
Yeah, it was the zoo.
Yeah. I might go with this. I might go with that even.
You know, I think I'm going to agree with you, but I think now we're getting close.
Yeah.
Above that is the Jihad.
I think I like Jihad better.
I'm trying to remember the Jihad.
That was all the creatures in the forest kind of thing.
Oh, yeah, the group. I think this one has better concepts.
Yes.
But I think it's a little messier.
Yes.
So I will agree with you there. Let's
Yeah.
put it between Jihad and Eye of the Beholder. Fifth, it's ranked number 5 right now for the series.
I would not have thought they would.
You know, honestly, I mean, before we ranked, but after we watched, I think 5's about where. I've thought it.
Not awesome, but still,
Well, if you look, a lot of the recent episodes have been up here. I mean, the Pirates of Orion's a few down, but right before that was the Jihad and Eye of the Beholder. So, and Slaver Weapons 2 above this, or 3 above this. So I feel like the animated series hit its stride at end of first season, beginning of second.
Yeah, and then, of course, it's gone. And I think this one was another one that was considered for the 3rd season of the original series.
Really?
Yeah, so, and I know we talked...
That would have been hard to do.
We talked off mic that this was...
They could have done it.
It's kind of like...
Aliens were simpler.
4. Yeah.
Bem did not disassociate.
Yes. Yeah.
Men and Women of Star Trek, I feel pretty confident that we can make this judgment for Keith. That's what I was going to say earlier. I think the alien entity knocks out sick crew women.
I think so, too.
And if Keith wants to change it, he can change it when he gets back. But we know his affinity for cloud creatures. I'm going with the alien entity as well.
Who was my last choice?
Randy Bryce.
She was
one of the ones in the zoo.
Oh, yeah.
She was a biologist.
Just so we're not all in line, I'll stick with Randy Bryce.
Stick with Randy Bryce.
Yeah.
That's the 4th episode in a row you stuck with Randy Bryce.
Yeah, I liked her.
This is the first time I've chosen a cloud creature, so I felt pretty confident. But man, Nichelle Nichols does a great cloud creature.
She is. I'm
really surprised we didn't knock Randy Bryce off for you.
I hope that if I meed my higher bill...
Zoe's protesting you. Your choice.
Actually, there's a good chance my higher being will come to me in the form of Nichelle Nichols.
When you die, you hope to see Nichelle Nichols.
I feel like that's very possible.
She will probably die before you. Sorry to say for Nichelle. Well, not really sorry. She's had a long life.
Yeah.
And you haven't had nearly as long a life.
No. I need to take advantage next time she's at a Comic-Con nearby. I need to take advantage and go.
Get a little kiss on the cheek.
Yeah, I should have gone to see her in Detroit last year.
If she's
I will regret that.
Well, you still got opportunity for now.
I do?
I think she is doing some appearances this year. Next week, the Practical Joker. The computer of the Enterprise gains partial sentience and starts playing practical jokes on the crew.
It's not a good start.
No. At least Majel gets to voice the computer.
All right.
The IMDb says, in the midst of a standoff with the Romulans, I assume they mean Romulans?
Oh, boy.
Later in that same synopsis, they say, which leads to a dangerous life and death battle with the Romulans.
Okay.
So I'm pretty sure it's just a typo.
All right.
So there's Romulans in this too, but no Romulans credited on the cast list. So I guess it's just going to be a... basically a bottle. No Romulans.
Not even in it.
So I'm guessing it's a bottle episode that the Romulans are just existing out there in space.
All right.
But until then,
live long,
prosper,
and keep your eye on your wallet when you're around Pandorians.
Absolutely. It's All Been Done presents.
Who's got the time?